Three legends, three eras. One question: who truly defines and owns greatness in the NHL? Today we're breaking down the careers of Alexander Ovechkin, Sidney Crosby, and Wayne Gretzky, two players that will forever be tied to each other from the 2005 NHL season onwards, and the greatest player to ever play the game, the great one, Wayne Gretzky himself. Through stats, tactics, leadership, and legacy, let's find out how each one of these owns their own throne in hockey, and how you'll find all three faces on the Mount Rushmore of hockey today and likely for a long time in the future. Ovechkin entered the league like a missile. He was raw, he was full of emotion, he was confident, borderline cocky, an absolute power forward with a toolbox that nobody had ever seen before. The best shot ever in the NHL when he entered, the best shot ever in the NHL when he left. This was an absolutely dynamic player that embodied love and fun for the game. Fans, players, and coaches around adored his attitude, but at times early in his career, this attitude would leave him to causing one-on-three situations. Sure, he would score sometimes, but he would leave his team in the background. Other times he would leave the zone early, stay on the ice for far too long. The famous Ovechkin 2-minute shift was out there, not really play defense, and really was a wild, one-of-a-kind cowboy for the Washington Capitals. Crosby? He was surgical from day one, a 200-foot player and an absolutely elite playmaker in the NHL. He was a coach's dream. He made players around him better, and he did this at lightning speed. Players like Kunitz, players like Dupuis, Mark Recchi late in his career. There was a relentless list of players that Sidney Crosby either helped to revitalize their career late stage or make true NHL All-Stars just because they played next to Sid the Kid. And then there's Gretzky. Not the fastest, not the flashiest, definitely not the biggest or most physical, but he changed the game and ushered in hockey's golden era. He taught players that you could score from places players never even knew you could score from, and he invented the office. Ovechkin's spot doesn't exist without Gretzky's office. Ovechkin's spot at the top of the circle, Gretzky's office behind the net. He played the game similar to the way a quarterback played football. He went behind the net, he created time and space using his amazing vision and supreme hockey IQ to allow his talent to shine. He was really a playmaker that was disguised as a goal scorer, but when you take a look at his point totals, it really was the assists that stood out. All three of these players had a wildly different early career. Gretzky was obviously shown to play in a time where goalies' pads were small, there was a lot of net to shoot at. It was a completely different game. But because of Gretzky, we have the game we have today, and Gretzky played in two eras. He arguably created hockey's golden era that we live in right now. Crosby started as a master tactician that knew he had to come in prepared and ready, and Ovechkin just had a toolkit unlike anything has ever seen. That's why he's the greatest goal scorer of all time. So how about the tactical breakdown of these players? Ovechkin's signature, a one-timer from the left circle, sometimes a snapper, sometimes a wrister, sometimes a slap shot. It's the spot. Teams knew it was coming, and they still couldn't stop it. Before we even defined the term Royal Road, that line that divides the ice left and right that's invisible, that is a road that we knew if the puck crossed it, you had a better chance to score. And it's for one simple reason. The goalie had to change your angle, and you had more net to shoot at while they were changing the angle. This wasn't necessarily Ovechkin's approach though. Ovechkin would shoot blocker side. He would find soft spots in the goalie. He wasn't just shooting for more net, he was shooting for the same spot over and over again, and that was mid to high blocker side. Yes, he would score glove side. Yes, he would score all over. You don't become the NHL's leading goal scorer by only having one trick, but this really was the staple in Ovechkin's arsenal. His shot would change from time to time. It'd be a one-time slap shot, a quick little snapper or a wrist shot, but each time he let that puck go, there was one signature that Ovechkin had. The puck wobbled. When the puck wobbled when it left the stick, not only was it deadly accurate, but it behaved somewhat similar to a curveball, not allowing goalies' eyes to track it, rising and dropping in mid-flight, making it very challenging for goalies to stop.
Never heard of a knuckle puck?
Knuckle puck? No.
It's knuckle puck time!
He winds up! He scores!
Crosby built his game on the dirty areas, behind the net, in the corners, and in the slot. consistently moving, relentless with the puck, drawing defenders closer towards him through unbelievable shifts where he'd do 1, 2, 3 loops around the offensive zone before dishing a puck for another player to score. He had signature tip-ins. Like a baseball player, he could see 100-mile-an-hour slap shots coming at them, tip them, and redirect them better than anybody else in the league. He could get second and third chances on rebounds. These are goals that Alexander Ovechkin is not known for. These are goals that Sidney Crosby is known for. Ovechkin was known for shooting, not necessarily tipping, redirecting, or getting rebounds. Crosby was known to get close to players, bring them in like a boxer would, and as soon as that player got too close or put his body weight in the wrong direction, Crosby would use his elite edge work, still the best in the NHL at the time, arguably one of the best in the NHL today, to lean off, go the other direction, use the player's own weight against him, and put pucks in the back of the net. Crosby's edge work and hands in tight, they are almost unfair even today at 38 years old. Gretzky, though, he controlled time. The game would slow down. In his office behind the net, he would bait defenders to coming towards him. He saw plays develop seconds early, and he picked teams apart like a quarterback with skates. We really do have Ovechkin as an absolute goal-scoring weapon, Sidney Crosby as a team systems engine, and Gretzky as an offensive architect. The evolution and leadership of each player was drastically different as well. Ovechkin went from a one-dimensional sniper. I know you guys are going to hate saying one-dimensional because he scored from all over, but he really was just a goal scorer early on in his career, to an absolute well-respected captain and Stanley Cup winner who balanced his fire and his emotion with focus. It was really under Barry Trotz that Alexander Ovechkin evolved into his final form, which we know and love today. That is Stanley Cup winner and revered captain among the NHL. Early in Ovechkin's career, you couldn't necessarily say it, but he was able to evolve and develop without losing the best parts of his game. He learned to become a dynamic goal scorer that didn't need to waste momentum, movement, or time. He became hyper efficient as a goal scorer. He remained steadfast on the power play. He learned to pass when he needed to. He continued the power forward presence of absolutely devastating and booming hockey checks throughout his entire career, and he was the hallmark of durability. The emotional player started his career telling all fans alike at a press conference that his favorite player was Alexander Ovechkin, but he'll finish his career with that same fire and youthful enthusiasm. When they asked if Patrik Laine was a new, younger Alexander Ovechkin, Alexander Ovechkin responded in his mid-30s that, hey, I'm still young. That's what people loved about Ovechkin, and that's why people love playing for Ovechkin. He found a way to tie in all that emotional, confident cockiness, direct it properly, become the NHL's greatest goal scorer, but also become one of the NHL's greatest winners. Sidney Crosby, this was the blueprint for professionalism, a near robotic player that took everything so seriously that fans and sometimes media pundits alike would say he was either too serious, sometimes call him a crybaby, or even not be a fan because of this professionalism. But it's this type of professionalism that marked his entire career with wins. People loved playing with him. People loved playing alongside him. He made everybody better, but more importantly, he won at every level because of this. He did this by simply just doing everything right. If he wasn't good at something, he would become good at it. He would train, he would eat, he would sleep, he would learn faceoffs, backhands. There were no weak points to Sidney Crosby's game, and he didn't care how he beat you. He just needed to beat you. If he needed to be the one to score goals, he would do it. If he never scored a goal again in hockey, he would not care as long as his team won. He finds ways as he started his career to the end of his career to develop, thrive, and change and lead his team to victory. Truly a master tactician. When he spoke, people listened, and he demanded excellence. When you play with Sidney Crosby, you follow his lead, you get in line, and you look to win. Gretzky didn't have to speak. He let his play speak for himself. He had other teammates on his team that helped him with that. Marty McSorley, a big reason Wayne Gretzky was able to get the room and the space he needed. Curry, Gretzky, Robitaille, it was all over the place. Gretzky had talented players around him. Gretzky had large vocal leaders around him. Gretzky led by doing his work on the ice. His presence commanded the room. He made average players better. But all three of these guys did it their own way. Great leaders, different ways of doing it, all winners, definitely on hockey's Mount Rushmore. The legacy of all three will forever be tied together now. Ovechkin is rewriting the goal scoring record book. He's passed Gretzky in goal totals. The only question is, how far is he going to go and how many more seasons is it going to take for the Russian machine to finally break? A feat that was once thought impossible has now been made possible. And there is a player on his heels right now. Austin Matthews does have a higher goal total per game than Alexander Ovechkin right now. We said years ago in the early 2010s that no one was going to pass Wayne Gretzky's goal total, even though Alexander Ovechkin looked like he had a chance. Austin Matthews is in that same point of his career right now. We're saying no one can ever pass it, but right now, unless something changes, a drastic injury, or he falls off, which is very possible, 20 years to play is a very long time, Austin Matthews is hot on his heels. But for right now, Alexander Ovechkin owns the greatest feat in hockey. Goals are the most important part of this game, and he is the greatest goal scorer of all time. The question is, how long is he going to go for? Crosby's going to go down as the most complete player of his generation, and I would argue the most complete player to ever play the game, period. Hard stop. With cups, gold medals, and respect from everybody in the NHL, Crosby's legacy is forever intact. And at 38 years old, he's still playing at an incredibly high level, putting up a ridiculous point total. And Gretzky, well, he owns 60 NHL records. He had 61. He just lost it. Those records will stand forever, and he will arguably go down as the greatest athlete of all time. That is always a fun debate to have, but he always makes the list of top 5 GOATs of GOATs. He's up there with Brady. He's up there with Ali. He's up there with Jordan. There's always an argument. Wayne Gretzky redefined hockey and put it on the map for America and Canada alike. His legacy will always be protected, and he will always be on the Mount Rushmore of hockey. So in the end, out of these three, who's the GOAT? It really is your choice. You want the greatest goal scorer ever and the most emotional leader of all time? You take Alexander Ovechkin. You want the best 200-foot player to ever play the game? You take Sidney Crosby. And you want the architect, the guy that changed everything for everybody? You take Gretzky. Right now, I still say Gretzky is the greatest player of all time. 60 records is nothing to sneer at. But Crosby in his own right is taking down some of those records. They're not the most popular. They're not the flashiest, but he is taking them down. He has a higher point total per game than Alexander Ovechkin. He's not as high as Gretzky. Arguably, nobody ever will be. But then again, you have the greatest goal scorer of all time in the Great Eight. Your choice has to come down below in the comments. You let me know. And if you want to break down more great hockey players, take a look at this video about Cale Makar and Nathan MacKinnon, two of the best players in the NHL today.